Good morning, YouTube. I'm sure a lot of you that are car people, you're in mourning right now. I'm dressed as in mourning because for the last time we saw the Grand Tour, the old Top Gear trio, get together for a special. After 22 or 23 years together, they hung their hats.
It's a long time, I get it, but I still feel like there was some life left in them. But if they didn't feel it, then I understand you're not going to have fun. You're not going to enjoy your life doing it, because 22 years is a long time to be shooting a show.
There is a point to go out while you're still on top, rather than that whole jump the shark thing. They talk about in Happy Days where the Fonz literally jumped a shark in an episode, and that became ever since the term for going too long with a TV show just because it's a big success and just riding it into the ground. So they chose to go out on top. But Jeremy Clarkson did say he's quitting because he joked. He said he's too fat to drive supercars anymore. He's just getting fatter and he won't be able to fit in them anymore.
Yeah, but he wouldn't fit in that first generation Corvette, I feel like. Do you know what I mean?
He's grown.
So I get what he's saying.
He's grown somewhat.
Not sure that's a supercar, but a lot of cars are tiny.
I think he gave the real reason in the show.
Right.
And he said he could say whatever the heck he wants because it's the very last one. I'm surprised there weren't more offensive things. Like, they've gotten in big trouble over the years by doing certain things, and there wasn't anything, slightly racist or anything in this episode, at least that I caught. But he did say that he hates electric cars.
Which I totally get, and we've brought it up because it's not like you're trading in your old fridge and someone really wants it because it's a 1999 refrigerator. It's just like it's an appliance and you don't have any attachment to it.
We should say spoilers. If you haven't watched it yet, go watch it, and then we'll be able to discuss, and you'll know, because we're going to give a lot of spoilers in this episode. But yeah, Clarkson was driving his Lancia Monte Carlo and just listening to the noise and enjoying it. And he said, that's a sound the younger generation won't grow up hearing. And then he says, I hate electric cars. They might as well be white goods. Like April said, white goods in British terms is like a refrigerator, an appliance, basically. And he doesn't want to go on reviewing electric cars because they all sort of do the same thing really well, and it's hard to define a distinct personality with each of them.
Right.
And I definitely agree. When every single one of them is capable of accelerating in 2 seconds with the right battery and the right motor, and woo, they go. And the personality comes in the design. It comes in what ambient noise they're deciding to make with this, speaker out the back, or simulating engine noises all together. It is hard. Like, are we going to be able to bond and attach ourselves to, say, our Cadillac Lyric like I do my Cadillac Escalade? And I don't know.
No, you're obsessed with the Escalade. It's part of your family, and I feel like the Lyric, I am attached to the Lyric, I would say.
So the Lyric's what we have. It's a 2023 two-wheel drive, a very nice old-school Cadillac approach to cars as far as the fit and finish, as far as the styling, looking really cool, and just nice, comfortable luxury car. But does it feel like it has a soul? And that's I'd say no right now, but maybe I'll be nostalgic in 20 or 30 years. I don't know. Like, I am with the Escalade right now, but back then I sure thought the Escalade had a soul, had a personality.
Well, and we keep comparing them to appliances, and all I can compare it to say what we're going to feel like in the future is your first iteration of the MacBook. Do you care about it at all? That's the appliance that I'm comparing to older electric cars.
Some people do, like the iMacs that were colorful. That they sort of collect. There's some early Apple IIs and things are collectible. I know, like, our friend Elliot Alvis made one into like a little cat nook in his office. One of those old colorful iMacs. But
that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few exceptions there. You get out your Nintendo NES system and blow in the cartridges and load that up and go.
True.
I camped out like overnight for a Nintendo Wii, the original Nintendo Wii, and I still play it. It's 20 years old now with my kids. They throw a tantrum, they rage quit, and the cord pulls it down and knocks it on the floor. And I'm thinking, this is going to be the last fall for this one. And it's still going after 20 years. So,
so there's a little bit of an attachment. I guess the only way to really know is we'll see in the future.
Right. But what we won't see in the future are those three guys maybe they'll do some reunion when they're 90 years old or something like that. But basically, they've said, Wolverine said he was done.
Endless rock bands.
Patrick Stewart said he was but they said they're done. They all have their own successful projects.
Right.
So I sort of believe them. I mean, Clarkson's going on 65, 70 years old.
Right.
He loves Clarkson's farm. He loves what he's doing there. James May, his travel show that's very successful, very funny, and Richard Hammond has his workshop show. He's basically restoring, doing the flipping of cars. Discovery Plus, so they all have their own projects. They're all happy. None of them seemed like they were wanting to do more of it. It just, you didn't feel upset like you were being robbed of a future of this. It felt like a very nice, natural way. And maybe that's because they did such a good job with the episode.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, and I don't know if it's telling, but they did revisit some things that they've already done. So is that proof that, hey, this has ran its course? We don't have a lot of great ideas left because they're replaying some older
They're doing their
ones.
greatest hits. I
Right.
feel like that's a great way to send it off, where they were in a country they couldn't go to before because the BBC wasn't allowed in Zimbabwe.
Right.
But they got to do all the things that they loved doing before and a few new things. So buying their favorite cars, not something, to fit some sort of mold. So the Ford Capri, the Lancia Monte Carlo, and the Triumph Stag, all very British cars that we don't really get or understand in the U.S. necessarily, but you bonded to them because of their attachment to those cars.
Right.
And then the trip, being able to revisit, say, boating again.
Sure.
They've tried a couple of times, and there's been a lot of amazing specials over the years where, they've had a whole, like, Vietnam and Asia boat one, but then also making their cars float across rivers and things and perfecting that. Like, here's how you do it right.
I just kept panicking because I'm like, even if they make this up, like they plan it ahead of time, they're going to think they're okay. One of them's going to fall in the water for half a second, and the alligator crocodile is going to eat them because that's the whole episode. There's thousands of crocodiles, and I'm like, is this going to dictate the actual? And like, that was in the back of my head. I was a little worried about that.
And
happening.
I did not expect that they would go for the train again.
Right.
They did this, 20 years ago where Jeremy had a Jaguar we made into a giant, it was an amazing episode of young adulthood for me. It feels like childhood at this point, because I'm over 20 years ago, but since I've been watching them. But yeah, they revisited that and perfected it, or at least tried to perfect it. Like, hey, we've had a lot of years to think about this, like how to do this, and here we go again.
Right.
And very cool.
Now, my big question to you is, did you cry at all in this last episode?
I did not. That's the thing.
Nothing?
And
you didn't even well up tears that you try to hold back and the itch in your throat when it's coming?
I am such a super fan. But I felt like it was their time. I felt like they were all ready.
Right.
I didn't feel like I was wanting more. And the ending, to me, I got kind of pulled out of it a little bit.
Right.
Because I knew that they were going to cross into Botswana, which was their first special. And I knew, because it was all over the internet, all over blog posts, that the original Top Gear special cars from 17, 18 years ago, the original Lancia and the Mercedes 123 were still there.
Right.
I feel like every Top Gear fan that's on the internet saw that poster and like, holy crap, those cars are still sitting there rotting from all those years. And they set it up as them just sort of pulling up to it and just being like, oh my God, look, they're here. Like, if that was set up a little bit, I mean, they're usually able to pull that off, where they're acting, or obviously things are a little bit of a setup and they're sort of pretending not to. And that's the same with television. Every show that I've done has been like that. Car Trek, some things are sort of like that, but we try and keep it pretty loose.
Right.
The Motor Trend show, you kind of have to have a little bit of a script, and then things happen that are spontaneous, and obviously you put that in, but you have to have some sort of story thought out beforehand. But with that one, I feel like it was such a well-known deal that these cars existed and sat there, that you could have just said, I heard that these cars were still here.
Right.
Let's go see.
But I still believed their emotion when they saw these cars was real. They were taken aback. It was a big moment for them to actually see them.
But I think, like, if they just let's just see if they're actually still there. Because I saw this post on the internet. Let's just go see. Oh my God! Look, they're here. Like, how are they still? Like, and then it's still a big moment. But the fact that they sort of, there's a little bit of like, this is obvious kind of setup thing right at the very end. That's supposed to be sort of an emotional moment. Was kind of like, maybe it's just me from being in the business myself for so long, where that kind of took me out of it for a second. But then the very end, we're in the same spot. They've gone through the same area. They're recreating shot for shot. We get to see how much bigger Clarkson is, as he wants to say. But, they look the same. That's the 20-something, 17 years later. But, man, Clarkson are grayer, and Clarkson, like, is just a little bit of a gut. But that's why I'm saying, Hammond looks really good.
Yeah.
He must be. Yeah.
I mean, just the part that got me was the three of them driving. into the sunset
Yes.
with their super hoopty cars. And I'm just like,
Splitting away.
splitting away, weaving throughout, and the music is playing.
James
and
May deleting their contacts. Yeah.
all it made me think about was that you, Tavares, and Ed need to follow this up. That this is where it's going. That I was seeing you guys in those positions, and that's all I could think about.
We're not. There's a story to tell with that as far as the replacements for the Grand Tour and the process of that. It's not my story to tell, but it's not going to be us.
No, I know that.
And of course, it wouldn't be us. But
I feel bad for whoever does replace them because they're building a show right now. And how do you follow that? Because they're actual friends, they're real chemistry going on. You can't just pluck random people and throw them together and expect to create that magic again. It just doesn't happen.
Well, and Clarkson actually made a suggestion in his column, in the Sun column. He said, don't pick celebrities.
Right.
Don't pick actors.
Right.
Don't pick someone who's, going to finish this project and move on to the next project. Like, this is something that needs to have 100% of their attention and planning and all that. So, and he didn't say YouTubers, but I kind of feel like he probably didn't think YouTubers may have been the best pick for it, because we would be done with the special and then immediately have to go back to our lives making content, making YouTube videos, and and then we'll go do this, and we're so spread around. He thinks that the formula is relatively unknown automotive journalists that are just totally geeked out, obsessed with cars, that have their quirks.
Is you guys.
No.
At the core, like, you're not actors pretending to know about cars and pretending to be in love, impassioned, every day enthralled with them, which I feel like a lot of car shows that are on the big networks, they take actors and they push them there and they say, get that passion going, and it's not real, where you guys are actually real.
Right, but we're busy, we have our own projects, we have our own YouTube, we have our own thing going. And all that, like, for me, what I wanted to be when I grew up, I couldn't be a starship captain, because that didn't exist. I couldn't be Jean-Luc Picard or Captain Kirk. That would have been the first choice. But the crazy moonshot dream choice was to be the next Jeremy Clarkson. I remember telling my friend Colin Kuhn, who I'm still in touch with, this is going on 15, 17 years ago. It was before the first Top Gear US came out on the History Channel. And I told him, I said, I really think my dream would be to do a Top Gear US, like what they're doing, and do it. And then he's like, a month later, he sends me a link to an article saying they're doing Top Gear US and here's the cast. And it's like, of course, at the time I'm in college, I'm like, goofball that like flips cars on the side, worked as a car salesman for a couple of years. But so they weren't going to come calling me for anything like that. And now we've gotten to know, well, you've known for years Adam Farrar, because you worked with him, and Rutledge and Tanner. Tanner took you on a bad date, but
Kind of.
Sorry, Tanner.
No,
he was just trying to like outclimb you or something like that. I remember you telling me that.
It's a long story.
Yeah. Anyway, not a bad date, and like he did anything wrong, but he was just like he wanted to show off his mountain climbing skills or something like that.
We were doing an event with Mario Andretti at Laguna Seca, where you do like a 2-seater Indy ride where Mario drives you around, and Tanner was there as a representative, and I was there with Barrett Jackson and Maxim Magazine and doing an event, and Tanner's like, hey, let's go kind of hiking by the beach at like Lovers Point break something area. And it was so funny because Tanner's like shooting way far ahead of me, just scaling these rocks, and I could barely keep up with him.
Like showing his physical prowess rather than being a gentleman, right?
Right. And I don't know, maybe it wasn't a date, maybe it was a date, I don't know. But it was just an interesting time. He's very athletic. I couldn't keep up, sorry.
Okay, that's a sort of a bad aside. But what I was setting up was I wanted to be Jeremy Clarkson.
Right.
It was the moonshot. It was like something that'll never happen, but that's, if I had a dream job, that's what it would be.
Right.
And YouTube made that possible. But before that, Jeremy Clarkson literally made it possible for me.
Right.
So I showed up at the first episode of the Grand Tour, the launch coming in. I was trying to get my foot in the door, writing for anybody. And that, because I closed up my car dealership and wanted to do something with cars, and loved to write, and just couldn't get my foot. I had no experience. I had no, like, everybody wants to write blogs, and I couldn't get in. But I did get a ticket to that first episode of the Grand Tour, and dressed up as the Interceptors, the Jensen Interceptors, was a bit that they did on Top Gear. And met Clarkson, met Hammond, met May, spoke with all of them. I think they were very eager to interact with crowds and fans again. It's been a couple of years, and they were very nervous about this new show. It felt like hopefully they like this. Hopefully it's the same kind of magic, and we can continue doing this. And afterwards, I sent Jeremy Clarkson a tweet saying, I had an amazing time, so nice to meet you. He replied to my tweet. And him replying to my tweet got me media inquiries. And then I was able to write my first blog post, which led to more blog posts, which led to them asking to make videos, which led to me getting hired part-time at AutoTrader to make videos and write articles with Doug DeMuro, writing his coattails up on YouTube to where I am now, to where the phone rings for a show on History Channel. And then eventually ending up on Motor Trend to get hired at Barrett-Jackson.
So his action was that domino effect that kind of ran your career that you have now.
Meeting Jeremy Clarkson was the catalyst for all of this. And you could say us, because we would have never met. Everything.
Thank you, Jeremy Clarkson.
Everything comes from that moment. And an absolute life-changing moment. Being there on the Grand Tour at the very first episode, that first moment. And
are your eyes getting misty right now?
No, I mean, no. It's just weird how fate, destiny, how all that stuff kind of works, and how everything just sort of snowballed so quickly. So I have a lot to be grateful for when it comes to that trio, and Clarkson especially, for giving me that moment. But just giving me that inspiration. I think you could say for most YouTubers, and the way the format is for car YouTube, for everything, the Top Gear, the Grand Tour format is what we all modeled our channels after. And I am eternally grateful. They're probably never going to watch this, but thank you. And in my YouTube video, just like he does with everything, he said it for the last time, thank you so much for watching. I do the same thing.
Oh, absolutely.
As a tribute. I guess I'll end it there. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you for leading me to this.